Guadalupe 2019, trying out 3 new cameras. We got the Mavic 2 with the zoom, got the Power Vision Power Ray underwater drone, and the Insta 360. And this will be the fun clips that I got with each of those. And if you want the technical side of this equipment, how it worked and what I thought about it, then go over to my other channel. All right, here's the fun stuff. This is a pretty long video. There was a lot of footage to go through, and I've packed this full of pretty good stuff. But if you want to skip ahead at any time, go ahead. I've broken it down into different sections. We've got the underwater drone, followed by the 360 camera, which mixes in some of the Mavic footage and some GoPro footage. And then we go down deep into the submersible cage and use the 360 camera some more. And finally end with the aerial shots from the Mavic 2 zoom. But first, something I've never used before, the underwater drone. I would be lying if I said this wasn't nerve-wracking. I've just gotten multiple warnings that the sharks will absolutely go after the underwater drone. I'm gonna start out by launching here on the side of the boat. Looks like there's a pretty good place for me to tether the Wi-Fi unit to, and then I'll just drop it off the side. For those that are curious, with the underwater drone, you have to have a tether because Wi-Fi does not travel underwater. So it has its own Wi-Fi unit that you wrap to something secure, hopefully, and then you have to have a tether going down into it, and then you've got the controller. And obviously, it's not ideal to have a cable down in the water to get tangled on things, including the shark itself, but that's the reality of it for now.
Oh! Oh! Oh, there he is! Oh shit! You got him? Why won't it turn? There it is! There it is! You got him! Oh, fucking thing!
Right there,
There, he's gonna bite it.
Lots of people on deck making different noises, making us nervous, and saying the shark's gonna take it, including myself. Oh shit! Here he comes! Here he comes!
Oh! 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 Son of a bitch. Were you aiming at him?
And did not help that we realized that the drone does not turn well. It basically missed the shark whenever the shark would get close.
That thing's...
Oh shit, here he comes.
Turn toward it. Turn toward it. Turn toward
On that first day there was too much swell, and we realized that it was too light, so even if you held it still at the surface, it was going to bob up and down and not stay focused on what you were trying to film. This footage pretty much sums it up. Okay, so there's a shark that comes into view, and boom, immediately the drone just starts spinning the wrong direction, and oh, there we just passed the shark again during the spin, and try to straighten out, it's bobbing around, and alright, the shark was already on us and it's swimming away. All we see is the dorsal fin. We tried putting a weight on it. That did not work.
I'm gonna lower it a little bit and try to look.
We got brave enough to put it over next to the bait. See, it could have potentially gotten some good shots, but it was still so bobby. But it was a shark named Joker that made me think it was finally time to take it out. The next day I had refueled on my typical stupidity, so Servando and I decided to try it again, only this time over on the submersible cage side to see what would happen over there. Unfortunately, it was more of the same. A shark could be coming straight at the camera, but there were buoyancy problems, so even if you got the shark where you wanted it, the camera wanted to bob up and down, and it still didn't turn well left or right. The best I could do with this is submit it as one of those videos that's really bad footage, yet it goes viral anyway because somebody says something like, unsuspecting diver has frightening encounter with great white shark, and then everyone's like, oh my god, that's the greatest footage ever, even though it's complete crap. So yeah, I guess this gave you a different look at the submerged cage if anyone wanted to know what that looked like from down deep. But other than that, nope. Okay, let's move on to the next camera. We'll skip the other drone for now, an aerial drone, and go to the 360 cam, which required a special improvised rigging in order to use it out here, which Servando was brilliantly able to come up with. The only downfall is that it looks just like the bait that's bobbing out there. I mean, that ended up being a little too similar. I mean, yeah, I definitely wanted the sharks to be interested in the camera and come close, but when you look at how they chase down the bait floats, you can see why I was pretty nervous about losing another expensive piece of equipment. Keep in mind, this is the sharks winning when the bait handlers are trying their best to stop them from getting the bait. I also did some hand holding of the 360 camera with its stick, hung it down in the submersible cage, and took a shot of the island from up top. But floating out there like the bait definitely got the most interesting shots. Everywhere. Cameras mounted in the cage, cameras mounted on the top deck, my iPhone, the 360's angles, and some of it even got caught on the new Mavic 2 zoom, so we'll just go ahead and start throwing in the aerial drone footage as well. Here's the very first investigation of the 360 cam. Now let's see that from all the angles.
Coming from the left! Coming from the left! Woo.
And as you've already seen, things really start to heat up.
Coming straight at it. Heating up. Oh my God!
Real quick, how many people noticed how sharp this turn is? That's the same shark immediately heading back the opposite direction. Of course, the teeth and the bite shots are an understandable favorite.
That had to be close.
But maybe the most mesmerizing to me is seeing that huge caudal fin in the back of the shark just propelling it forward. It reminds me of one of the coolest and most humbling experiences ever, going cageless with white sharks and seeing that face just that face and that tail coming toward me. But I got this approach and the teeth on 3 different cameras, so here you go. All right, shall we take a break from the surface and go down deep? Now you might be wondering why I'm looking down when it seems that the shark is to my side. Well, there's another shark approaching from down below. And it seems like there's always another shark, whether you can see it or not. Keep your head on a swivel and don't be like that guy that hung his whole body out of the surface cage that I pointed out earlier. These animals are the kings of materializing out of nowhere. So when I have my camera pointed at one shark, my head is usually looking somewhere else. You saw the first shark on the right. Did you see the second one come in from the left? And then, having grown bored with us, the shark dives into the depths and disappears. Now that we've been down deep, let's go up high. Here are a couple of examples of using the zoom feature. So I'm not flying the drone back and forth, I'm just using the zoom control. This is one of the built-in quick flight features called Asteroid. This is the dolly zoom. I don't remember, I think this is called Boomerang or something like that. And it basically makes a nice wide circle around the object of focus, and that's pretty cool. The only thing I don't like about it is that you can't use the zoom controls while it's in this quick flight mode. Nope, it is not too shabby out there. Make sure to check the video description for a link to come and join me on the next trip. And as much fun as it is to hang out around the boat with the drone and film the sharks from above, sometimes, like this shark, when it starts to wander off away from the boat, it's a good idea to just follow it. You can set the tracker on the drone. I foolishly manually followed it for quite a while. The only problem with the tracker is that sometimes you can end up really far away. I even tried to land on the wrong boat. I was so confused about where I was. But man, just look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Except of course for that tag. You can see a lot of things when you head away from the boat, like this turtle. And if you look up my videos from last year, I actually have footage of great white sharks and turtles interacting, and great white sharks and tuna interacting. Alright, that was a long video. That's enough. That was a lot of footage. That took forever to edit, so I hope you enjoyed it. Those of you who are hardcore, I've got a little bit of bonus stuff at the end of the video that you can watch now. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed it. I would appreciate a like, a subscription. Please ask questions about sharks and leave comments. And every now and then I have a comment contest to win some of my custom-made shark shirts. Alright, see you next time. Bonus time. Alright, sometimes you see aerial footage of sharks swimming next to people at the beach and they have no idea the shark is there, and you might think, wow, how can you be so clueless? Let me tell you, sharks are hard to see. Here's one at the surface, and with a little bit of chop, and if you're not directly overhead, sharks are really hard to see. Just keep that in mind. Here's one I made for social media, so I'm throwing it in here as a bonus just to show the full rotation capabilities of the 360 and to imagine what it would be like if you were out there floating, looking back at the cages, rotating your head, looking down into the extremely deep water surrounding Guadalupe, rotating around again, and you're looking left, right, up, down. You're getting a little bit more nervous because you know how good the counter shading is on these sharks. And then you kind of think that you see something out of the corner of your eye, and you're like, wait a minute, is that tuna? Is that a shark? And right about the time you're thinking, yep, that's a shark, it's on you. So, you know, it's a joke, anyone who says that they escaped from a shark. I repurposed that footage again for this 60-second anatomical lesson on the shark, because I love the subtle details that we often miss. That was a fun sequence captured with my new 360 camera, but even though it's already cool, let's slow it down and take a closer look at some of the fine details. First of all, the camera survived because it was pulled away at the last moment, but you're able to see the entire sequence because in post-production, I rotate the view in order to continue facing the shark. Okay, here we go. By the time I freeze it here, the shark has already made a few subtle adjustments. Not so subtle is the use of that left pectoral fin, the rotation of the head, and the increase in speed. We also get our first glimpse of that beautiful eye. Here we can see the shark adjusting to the camera being pulled away. Pectoral fins have dropped, the head has turned and the body is curved, and another look at the eye, which clearly sticks out from the skull, is obviously alert and looking at the target, and once again we see the blue. Obviously we love the infamous teeth, and the look down the throat helps us appreciate the size of these gills, capturing oxygen while the stomach is closed off from the intake of water. Why did I say don't hang out of the cage? That might seem a little hypocritical considering that I've gone cageless with white sharks. Well, I almost think that that's worse, to be honest. What's your maneuverability when you're bent in half at the waist, hanging out of metal bars, and if a shark suddenly appears from the side, which I've shown numerous times that they do, you have to awkwardly start to pull yourself backward. In the cases where people are leaning way out of the cage to film a shark, they're focused on the shark in front of them. Not the one coming up from beneath, not the one coming from the side. Those of you who know me probably expected me to say something about this tag, because it ruined some really good footage, especially this drone footage. Real subtle. I mean, when you're beholding the perfection of that shark, a blemish like that really stands out. And who's it benefiting? Is it really benefiting the shark, or is it benefiting the tagger? For over 2 decades, I've been listening to these people who tag the sharks and make their money with their publications, and by getting onto Shark Week, making more shows with excuses to catch and tag sharks, talk about how it's necessary to do this to save the sharks. In the meantime, over the last 2 decades, I've watched the plight of sharks just get worse. Someone showed me solid evidence of these studies, specifically for the white shark, actually helping the white shark. And thus ends bonus time.